Hey guys, how's it going? It is time for another video on this channel, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different from what I normally do. But if you watched the last video, you know I made an intro for the channel, so let's start by running that intro right here. Okay, so welcome back. A couple of updates. I want to give you a little bit of news for the channel before I dive into my subject today. And that is, I want to talk about two images that I've shown on this channel that have sold at the stock agencies recently. And the first one boggles my mind because the reason I took this shot was just to recreate a stock image that I had dreamed up 30 years ago and I never shot it. I shot it on this channel just for fun. I put a blue gel behind it, which was very 80s-ish style to do. And it sold. I have no idea who bought it. I don't know where they're putting it, but the one with the blue gel sold, and that boggles my mind. And the other image that sold recently was just from a few videos ago where we went on a little day trip with my wife to take a photograph that we were going to hang in our bathroom. I did it just for the sake of doing some kind of artsy print for the house. But for the heck of it, I sent it into the stock agencies, and it has already sold as well. So that's pretty cool news. The subject for my video today is going to be film. And I have been wanting to do this for a while, or at least part of it. But I'm going to start with a little bit of a rant. And I don't know, rants are just fun. It just half sarcastic rant, if nothing else. But let's talk about film, because I am seeing a lot of YouTubers doing videos about how they love to shoot film and film is so much better and you get this certain look. Okay, so let's talk about that. Now, a little bit about my history. Now, I've been a photographer for 30 years, so obviously my career started when everybody was shooting film. And I can remember learning to go into the darkroom, develop black and white film, go into the darkroom, put that film into the enlarger, expose a sheet of paper, and then put that paper in the developer. And it was like magic watching that print come up in the developer. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was a super cool thing to do, especially the first time. And, you know, in junior high school or whenever it was that I did that for the first time, that's what sold me on photography. So for me, my career started with film, and I shot film professionally for many years. Probably about 10 or 15 years of my career was film. And about 2003 is when I personally switched over to digital full-time. And back in those days, I remember a lot of film shooters were a little skeptical of digital simply because of the cost. And the cost being that you were going to have to invest in new equipment, expensive cameras, software, the whole deal. But for me, I was a wedding photographer at the time, and I was super excited about going digital because film was what was expensive to me. I figured out one time that it cost me, every time I took a photograph with film, it cost me about $1. I had to pay for the film, I had to go to the lab and pay to have it developed, and then we used to make 5 by 5 inch prints, so you would make these proof prints of every image to give to the client. So you had, between film processing and proofing, it was about $1 every single time I took the photograph. So at a wedding, we used to do about 400 or 500 images. That's $400 or $500 for every wedding just on the film and processing. So to me, that was the great expense. And if I went digital and cut all that out, I was super excited to go to digital. So that switch over for me, going from film to digital, was about 2003, and I never looked back. I sold off all but one of my film cameras. That one film camera sits in a drawer. I don't even touch it anymore. I don't personally have a real desire to shoot film anymore because, in all honesty, I can't see the benefit of doing it. At least I can't see the benefit of doing it from a business standpoint. I don't see shooting film doing any benefit to my client, and it certainly isn't doing any benefit to me financially if I've got to buy the film, pay for the processing and the whole deal. Now, my little rant to talk about is all these videos that I'm watching on YouTube of all these photographers that are saying, I love to shoot film just because it gives me a look that I can't get with digital. You know, I honestly, I don't think there's much you can't do with digital. Fuji cameras have all the film simulations that everybody seems to love. They do phenomenal results. There is a guy out there, he's from England, his name is Jamie Windsor. If you've never watched Jamie's channel, it is probably one of the best photo channels on YouTube that I've found. I don't know Jamie, I've never talked to him, you know, he doesn't know me, but his channel is phenomenal, and he has created presets and actions that are film simulations, which from what I see him demonstrating are off the chart. He's very systematic about the way he does it. He studies the film, the looks of the film, and he has taken any digital image and make it look like Kodachrome or Tri-X or whatever your film choice is. So I don't really buy into the I like film because it gives me a certain look thing. Now, if you love to shoot film and that's your thing, more power to you. I don't have a problem with it, and I'm not criticizing anybody. But I do question, I'm going to shoot film just so that I can scan it into the computer and make a digital image of it. Now, with all due respect to film shooters, these guys are super talented, the ones that do it, and I'm sure they have reasons why they love to shoot film, and I respect that. This shot over my shoulder was shot by a guy named Dave Witt, good friend of mine that I used to teach with. He actually sent me an image of himself taking that photograph, and I don't know how good it's going to look right here, but here it is. He sent me this on Instagram, so it might be a little grainy, but that was shot with 4x5 film, beautiful image, and the neat thing about that is not only did he shoot it on film, it's processed and printed in a darkroom. There's no digital aspect to this particular print, so that I certainly respect. Shooting film is harder than shooting digital, because by and large, when that piece of film comes out of your camera, you have to have everything right, especially if you're going to go to the darkroom and just make a print. I mean, you can manipulate things in the darkroom, but it's not anything near like doing it in Lightroom, where you've got 50 different sliders and presets and all these things that you can do to fix the things you did wrong in the camera. You got to get the exposure right, you got to do things right. Okay, I'm done ranting. What I really have always wanted to do with this particular video and talking about film is, if you can see over my shoulder right there is a whole bunch of film. I shot that film probably 20 years ago, and it's been sitting in a box or on a shelf ever since, and I never processed it. So I'm going to take a couple of those rolls in and have them processed. Now, is it going to be something on those rolls that I shot all those years ago that's important? Or is it going to be more like, remember when Geraldo Rivera went to Al Capone's vault and made this big production and they didn't find anything? I mean, it could be that. I don't know. But I'm thinking the images may have deteriorated. They've been sitting God only knows where for all these years. But I'm thinking there'll be some images on there. And they may be memories only, which would be important to find those. God forbid if they were a client piece of film from a wedding or something that I forgot to process. These two rolls of film are 120 film, came off of my Hasselblad that I used to shoot a lot of weddings and portrait work with. The rest is all 35 millimeter. One of these, I think this one right here, I don't even think there's any film in here, so let's pull that out. And I've done some checking as to the cost, and I think the local photo store here in town told me that to develop these rolls of 120, if you can see, I've got Portrait 160 and Portrait 400. I think it's like $7.99 to process this roll of film, an extra $2 to scan every image in, and then they'll send me those scanned photos. And personally, I don't mind them being scanned in because that's what I'm going to do with them. I don't need prints of them. So I think I'm going to do these two. Maybe at a different time we'll do these 35 millimeters. T-Max 400. I've got a roll of Tri-X here. I really have no idea what's going to be on these, but I'm going to run to the store. I'm going to process these. I think it'll be kind of fun. So guys, driving over here, I thought of a couple other things that I didn't think about when I was ranting about the film. One of them being, I've got to take the time to drive the film over to get it developed. And then I got to go pick it up. So there's a time factor there. The other thing that I see a lot of YouTubers talking about when they love the look that film gives them, they don't always talk about film can have a very different look based on whether you expose it properly or under or overexpose it, how you develop it. You know, a lot of times they talk about, I love the grain that this produces. And a film will give more grain if you underexpose it, or the shadows will come up differently. And I watch some of these, and I'm not mad at anybody or, you know, trying to point anybody out, but a lot of times their method to get a good exposure is a little suspect. And I think, you know, you're not even exposing your film properly to get the most out of that film, and then but you love this look. It's a little odd. There's a lot when it came to film that you expose for the highlights, develop, what was it? With negative film, you would expose for the shadows, develop for the highlights. With transparency film or chrome film, you had to expose for the highlights. You couldn't blow out the highlights. So there's a whole bunch of variables that most people don't talk about in achieving that look that you get with films. Okay, $25 for 2 rolls of film because it was $8 a piece to process them, $5 to scan the first roll, $2 to scan the second roll. This is one of the reasons why I don't think film is all that great of an idea. It's just pricey. Okay guys, I just got my film back from the photo store. They sent me the digital images. They all look pretty decent for being what I figure now is 19 years old. I figured that I shot these in the spring of 2002, and ironically, a lot of the images were taken of flowers and blooming trees, which is what's happening in the South right now. So that was kind of neat. The first roll was taken all around the house that we were living in a little town called London, Ohio. I'll show those first, and then the roll after that, we used to drive around Ohio a bunch when we first moved there. We didn't know a lot of people, and we would spend the weekends traveling to these little towns. Half of the roll was taken in some town that I'm not even sure I remember what it was. It was just some cool architecture and stuff down there. If you happen to be in Ohio and know what town that is, let me know. I would love to remember where that actually was. And then the last half was of pictures of my oldest son, who is now 21. At the time he was 2, so that was kind of a neat memory. They are a little on the underexposed side, probably my fault. The lady inside the store told me that even though the film sat around for 20 years or 19 years, it probably wouldn't lose exposure to look underexposed. That's not how it's going to deteriorate. It's going to deteriorate with probably colors more so than the look of the exposure. So those were a little underexposed. Certainly some gray overcast skies in Ohio, which is normal up there, but nothing fantastic from the film as far as amazing shots, but definitely some memories. And here are those negatives. Look like this. These would go inside of an enlarger to make a traditional print. That's about it for my film journey. I've got those 35mm rolls that someday I'll have to bring over here and have them processed as well. If you guys can make some comments, I would love to hear your film stories, why maybe you're still shooting film, what your thoughts about the whole deal is. And if nothing else, just leave me a comment. Give me a thumbs up if you would. If you have not subscribed to this channel, I would truly appreciate it if you would. Hit the notification bell. Like I said, leave me a comment, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.